enhancing senior health through technology.
So yes, thank you for today. And we're in Malta, and this is a very specific topic because Malta is one of the countries in Europe that has a Ministry of Health and Active Aging. So really bringing to the core the topic of senior health. And I have a lot of amazing blend of speakers today. And I would say in 1 minute, maybe you could quickly introduce what you do. And I will start with Lucas, 1 minute.
Yes, it's very tough in 1 minute. So first of all, it's a big pleasure to be here in Malta. My name is Lucas Perez. I'm an expert in aging technologies, an advisor for the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. And I'm also medical director of Life Plus, that is a French company offering smart devices and algorithms for older populations living in nursing home, resident services, and also for those who are living at home.
Wow, that's a lot of hats. So thank you, Lucas. And over to you, Yuri. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm the head of research for a company called BrainTrip, and we're focusing on early detection of brain diseases and disorders. There's a huge topic, right? Brain diseases affect about 3 billion people globally. But imagine, like, for a second that people had to get a referral if they wanted to get their blood pressure measured. It would take weeks, it would cost hundreds of euros. What would the result be? Well, the result would be that very few people would get their blood pressure measured, and more strokes, more heart attacks, and a whole lot of costs for society. But that's the state of affairs for most brain diseases currently, and that's what we're trying to change.
Great. Over to you, Jürgen.
Hi. First of all, hope you are enjoying the weather, the sunny weather that we have. You brought the rain with you from France. So basically, I'm Jürgen Sunes. For the past year, I've been the CEO of an elderly facility, St. Vincent de Paul. Basically, Malta, just to have a snapshot on the demographic, we have around 500,000 population, which almost 60% consists of the aging population, people over the age of 60 years old. In St. Vincent de Paul, we have around 1,400 residents there. Residents there, and we have the intermediate care. Intermediate care is apart from long-term care, where residents come and reside there. They come, we give them the treatment, and we send them back into the community. So basically, we are lessen the burden from the acute hospital. By profession, I'm a nurse by profession, so I can see the patient in a more holistic way, you know. That's all from my end.
Thank you. And over to you, Jen.
I'm John Gardner. I'm a co-founder of Mendicel. We have a patent-pending wound care device and elderly bathing device. I'm from the manufacturing industry for precision machining, like aerospace and automotive. And my dad is an inventor, and he saw a need in aging technology when he was volunteering time at nursing homes to bathe aging people and treat their wounds in a different way. And he used his lifelong engineering skills to create a patented product. And so I'm really excited to be here in Malta and in the medical world and learn from everybody about the medical industry, because this isn't my native industry. So
yeah, thank you. And you guys made the time. I'm happy about that. Okay, so I've heard of this terminology that is coming. I mean, we're in a MedTech World Conference, but aging tech. And of course, who better else to tell us than Jürgen? What does aging tech mean?
So, this is the million-dollar question, I believe. Aging tech, that is aging population and technology. Two completely different things, you know, that they don't combine well when mentioning them. But fortunately enough, by incorporating technology into the aging field, we are, first of all, improving the quality of the patient care that we are delivering. And even the elderly themselves, they are feeling secured more at the community. So let's divide your question into two. We are incorporating technology into the healthcare field per se, so hospitals, elderly homes, and we are also incorporating technology into the community so that we try to, the patients that are living in the community feel more secure by having, for example, AI devices that they can communicate more easily with them. And these are connected to the healthcare field. So a healthcare professional will be monitoring all these patients in the community. It's called satellite remoting. And instead of bringing an elderly person in-house in the elderly setting, we can monitor the patient at home. So basically, by doing this, first we are lessening the burden from decentralized nursing homes that we are having, thus increasing patient satisfaction by leaving them to stay in the community. So those are.
So that's really powerful. So you're kind of giving the power to the patient and also the community to see how they're processing their different needs. I'm quite curious with Life Plus, Lucas. I know that you have this innovation that is already working with over 1,000 plus. Can you give us a bit of more light how you are doing that in France?
Yeah, indeed. In Life Plus, we're offering smart devices like this type of AI power watch. And this watch having a lot of features like, for example, nurse call, but also falls and wandering detection. We also work on prediction, but you know, in the aging technology field, the question of prediction is very tough compared to the question of prevention and assistance and making medical follow-up. So in Life Plus, today we equip more than 6,000 seniors over 65 plus all across Europe. We work with one of the biggest nursing home company, that is Corian. And we also work with resident services for seniors. But it's not the same type of seniors profile, you know. There are two types of seniors, the young seniors and the very, very old seniors, living mainly in geriatric hospitals. And obviously our offer with a watch, with our AI algorithms to monitor the frailty. Frailty, you know, it's a big question. It's something very important when it comes to aging, the frailty, you know. It's, by the way, in an American notion, frailty, at the beginning, yes, from American researchers. And it's very important to take into account this notion, the notion of frailty and how you can monitor the level of frailty for people over 65 plus, living in nursing homes or whatever.
Yeah, that's quite. So you have already implemented this technology, and basically, what is the feedback you're getting? Is it that the adoption, and how is that going? Is it that more people are open to it, or are you getting a bit of pushback? And yeah, so how has the experience been?
Use and adoption is a big question. So the use and adoption is very difficult when it comes to people very, very old, using, for example, an healthcare-related mobile app. Yeah. It's very difficult. So the watch is wearing. It's not a camera. It's a watch that is wearing. And because it's a watch, the seniors wear this product. It's not something completely different that he can wear in the real life. And the algorithm is invisible, you know, and it's able to manage a lot of data, personal health data, and the usability is very high for type of product because there is an invisible part and a visible part that is the watch, but also a bracelet, but also other type of smart devices we offer. But the usability is more than 80% for the people, for the seniors people using our technology.
Oh, that's great, more than 80%. I think that's something we want to hear more often. And I'll bring us back to maybe other projects that we're seeing. I mean, Yuri, you're talking about diagnosis for brain diseases and bringing that to the elderly care. Can you enlighten us a bit? Like, how are you doing that and what are you trying to really solve with that?
Yeah, thank you. So I like to say that sometimes it makes sense to reinvent the wheel. Although we are warned not to do that, but actually sometimes it's a good idea. The wheel we are reinventing or have reinvented is called EEG, and that's short for electroencephalogram. It's an old technology. It's been around for 100 years. Actually, this year we're celebrating 100 years of EEG's discovery. So it's an old dog, right? So, but it's time we taught the old dog some new tricks. So mix my metaphors a little bit. And the problem with EEG is that it's very limited in its use cases. Just certain brain diseases were able to be diagnosed with EEG. Why is that? Because the traditional way to approach EEG was to visually look at the raw signals coming from the human brain, which is good if you're trying to detect certain diseases that radically change brain activity, diseases like epilepsy, maybe sleep disorders. But these diseases are very rare, like 1 in 2,000 people have epilepsy. So it's a very rare disease, but 1 in 10 people will get dementia during their lifetime. So it's hundreds of times more common. But dementia changes EEG in a subtle way that you cannot detect with your eyes alone. So you need a bit of math, right? And I'm a physician, right? I know physicians never liked math, but I do. I'm an atypical physician in medical terminology. I like mathematics. So I devoted my life to developing algorithms, mathematical ways of extracting data from EEG so it'll make EEG more useful for medicine. That's what we've done.
So basically, by making EEG more useful, you're trying to get more diagnosis out there, like so people know they have a disease on time, or what would be the application for your product?
Diagnosis, definitely, but the diagnosis is the end of the line, right? We try to compare our device to a blood pressure meter.
Okay.
Like a blood pressure meter doesn't give you a diagnosis of hypertension, right? It tells you, well, your blood pressure is a bit high. Why is it high? Well, somebody needs to check that out. But based on what the blood pressure device shows you, that's the first indication that something is wrong, and that then starts you on this pathway of extra testing and so on. But if the blood pressure device shows everything is fine, then you probably don't need to worry about it. That's the market we're trying to position our device in, kind of this preventative or early detection stage. Sure, it's also useful in the later diagnostic stages, but that's a tiny market, to use kind of business speak, a tiny market compared to this early detection, early stage. So 55 million people have dementia globally, but that's not the market, right? The market is all of the people that need to get tested whether or not they have dementia, and that's more or less everyone over the age of 50 or 60, and that's like 150 million people in the European Union, right?
Okay, yeah, that sounds amazing, because then you also give the hospital the possibilities to avoid cost. I will come over to John. I think John is doing something amazing with MedTech and trying to see how do we also bring more care to the elderly. John, can you enlighten us a bit on how you're trying to do that?
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. It kind of goes back to my dad. He would donate time in nursing homes after a career in the manufacturing industry, and he observed how what he called the process of bathing them, either moving them to a stainless steel tub, and some of them would have dementia, and they'd have to be stripped naked and be crying and not knowing what's going on. And then he'd see bed sores and pressure wounds all up and down their back. And he said, I remember it because he was like, it'd make you cry. It was really, he was like, he had to leave the room. He was very affected by that. Mm-hmm. And so he then decided to find a way to bathe elderly or aging or invalided people, paraplegics or whatever, without having to sponge bath, bathe them in their bed, get the bed sheets all wet, or move them to a stainless steel tub, and to allow them to have basically a dry bath that lays fluid down and sucks it back up with jet lavage plus negative pressure vacuum technology, and contained all in a container. Then he got very interested in how that technology could be used to treat the pressure wounds and bed sores and ulcers that they had developed. And it really hit home for me when I was visiting a family friend in Oklahoma who was passing away, and they were about to be sent home, and their family was kind of poor, and they couldn't afford any care, and they were wondering how this family friend, who was quite a large guy, how they're going to bathe him as he stayed with them for another month or two. And I was like, wow, I wish I had my dad's device. And then watching them try to move him into the tub and worrying about them slipping and falling or dropping him. And so more devices to help the aging process with dignity. There was shame that in my friend's eyes that he had to have his daughters take care of him naked in the bath. There was the comfort factor. That all really affected me and wanted me to remembered my dad had invented this and wanted to bring it to the world. So.
That's a very personal story, and it really hits home. Yeah, there's a lot of, as you said, aging with dignity and seeing how do you also empower them at that stage where they think they're fragile, vulnerable to do things. So Jürgen, you have heard like a lot of innovations and how it's going, and with the head of a CEO of a hospital or elderly care home, how do you try to implement and integrate all these different technologies?
So, first of all, I'm really inspired by their technologies, AI devices, and I want to add something to what my colleague here said, that reinvent the wheel. Yes, it's a good thing. More than reinventing the wheel in my place, in my elderly home, we try to adjust the wheel, the existing wheel, in the cart. So, if we need to introduce a new model, for example, first we need to involve all stakeholders. It's important that rather than just bringing the project and, load, stock and barrel in the world, that won't work completely. So by implementation phases, we need first, apart from getting clearances, ethical clearances, data protection clearances, certain authorities clearances, a lot of bureaucracy here in Malta, but even abroad, basically. We need first to make sure that the product is patient safe, Then we start with all stakeholders. By stakeholders, I mean the persons on the ground that are going to use these products. In our case, we involve also the unions so that they are, on board the project and we don't have any stumbling blocks when we get this thing running. And we pilot phase it in certain areas. We get the data, we sit down around the table and discuss what could have gone wrong, what could have gone right. Then, looking at the bigger picture, we can go and target more areas. That's my way of implementing this project. Currently, as you can see also on our stands there, we are implementing a project called geolocation for the patients. It's a watch, it's a bracelet, where patient data is monitored continuously, and we know the patient, especially those suffering from dementia, the wanderers, we can know exactly where they are situated, I had a meeting a couple of days ago with my other colleague, and we try to collaborate together to take this to another next step now. So, like I said, the main thing is the way how to implement it. Then everything will go as planned.
That's a good way to look at it. And I mean, when you were talking, I tried to figure out, when you do this implementation, how much of the patient or the elderly are involved in this process? And for me, it would be good to also hear from both Lucas, Yuri, and John, like, how do you foresee this when developing your product, like involving them in doing this? And so, Jürgen, how are you doing that? You can start and maybe the rest will follow.
Mela, basically, when introducing such pilot project, we target one particular ward. Consists of around 30 patients, even for future when we collaborate together. We target one ward, we bring all the physicians on board, the geriatricians, the allied, the nurses, and obviously the IT team. We discuss how it's going to be implemented. We target the patients. We cannot do like the selection process. It can be either randomized or else it's according to your needs. We can target, for example, a ward that has the most wound cases, for example, so that we can have a clear picture, on the scenario. Then, following this approach, we can obviously ramp that up to the other wards. But first, we need to start with a small ward. Obviously, we get a bigger picture on what's happening. So basically, that's my way of implementing.
So you get all the stakeholders in the room and discuss that with that. So, for example, Lucas, how have you involved the elderly in your wearables? Like, how did you bring them on board?
So yeah, it's very interesting, and as Jürgen says, the scalability of the project is very important, starting from a little group of seniors and make some scalability on the pilot. To empower the patient or the residents, obviously we work on a certain type of use case. In hospital, for example, we know that the rendering is not an issue, compared to fall detections. In many countries in the world, the question of falls in hospitals is something that is unofficial, except maybe in Canada. In Canada, there is some statistics on the falls detection and the falls prevention in hospitals. But in France, and I suppose in Malta, there is no statistic on it. And thanks to the algorithms, thanks to the smart devices, we are able to provide the best technology in order to get the service. And saying that, knowing that the seniors has a sentiment of trust regarding the technology. He has a good feeling about the technology, regarding the technology. And I think trust, but also the good feeling is something that is very important for usability, use and adoptions. Yeah.
That's a big point you brought out there, trust. So getting that trust from the elderly, to use your point. And I would let Yuri maybe delve into that. How are you going on with your patient group or elderly care with using your technology? Yeah.
I'd like to touch upon a very interesting point that Jorgen brought up when we were discussing at the table earlier before the panel. And he said that we mustn't forget that whatever we do, it's the patient that matters. So patient centrality. And my metaphor, because I like metaphors, is like that the patient is the sun. Yeah. And all of the other stakeholders, we are kind of planets. Yeah. And it's the sun's gravity that affects the planets, not the other way around. There is a little bit of an effect, but the dominant effect is the effect of the sun. Yeah. And you also said that we need to empower people, and I couldn't agree more. And we believe that the best way to empower people, seniors, because we're currently focusing on dementia and that affects seniors, is to give them access to information that they previously didn't have. Them and their relatives. We think that's very important, that people get the access to the information they want and they need and they demand, basically. So based on this information, they can make their own decisions. And that's, I think, is important. Not so rare do these various stakeholders forget that at the end of the day, it is the patient choice, and it's the patient that needs to know. And sometimes we try to shield patients from information because we're being a bit patronizing. So medicine is moving away from this patronizing principle of let's try and shield the patient and the relatives from bad information. Maybe that will hurt them. Maybe they'll feel, terrified or something. No, it's up to the patient and their family to decide what they want to do with the information at hand. We were strong believers in that.
Yeah, crucial points. The patient is the sun, and we are all revolving around them, and to put them at the center. That's good, and empowering them. John, over to you. What would you say?
Well, like my colleague here, I took a good piece of wisdom from Jorgen here. When we were walking over, I was going over being an entrepreneur and a founder, and used to talking to VCs. I was saying, okay, so here's how much faster you could treat the bed sores. If you have 1,400 patients and they have 5 bed sores each, and here's how much fast time you could save. And he's like, John, it's not about that saving time and money. That's secondary. It's about the patient comfort and getting them, and it's about the tissue viability team. And it was a nice, refreshing thing for me because I'm used to selling something that has value to VCs as we're trying to start this. So it really helped recalibrate, and was refreshing to talk to someone that views it all from a different angle than the business side of it, and gaining that trust. So.
Yeah, thank you. So I would say, collaboration, putting the patient at the center, and building trust, empowering is some of the things I've heard from you. And I'll go back to you, Jorgen, and saying, because you are really implementing collaboration, and I call it like collaboration, more or less, like putting this. How would you say going forward from here today? Of course, you have some partners, but how would you ensure that not only Malta, but wider Europe and the world embraces this method when it comes to elderly care?
First of all, like my colleague said, trust is the most important thing. So first, we need to build trust within the public, within the patients, especially their relatives, and even the healthcare workers. By then, we can take this thing step up and obviously implementing internationally. But we need to have this data in hand, so even when you are doing such speeches or else collaborating with authorities that you need approvals from, we need to have all clearances with data in hand, literature even backed up data, so that they can obviously implement this on a wider spectrum. But just to end up my discussion on this is, to embrace technology, we need to keep the patient-centered care always in the middle of our actions. Otherwise, we will fail.
Thank you. That's a good one. So, and that would be maybe not your last word, and I would do a short you have like now, I like with time in like 10 seconds to say, if you want the audience to take something home in terms of enhancing senior technology, what would be the thing you would say? I would start with Lucas.
So for me, inclusivity is the key. Inclusivity is the key, and we have to create solutions made by the seniors for the seniors, and it will be very important. The development of aging
Inclusivity for the
technology.
seniors, by the seniors. Yuri, over to you.
Well, I think the key word in developing new medical technology is pragmatism. There are so many stakeholders. Each of them have their own criteria. We have to satisfy all of them. But technically, you can never satisfy everyone. So I think the pragmatism is very important. Compromise is very important. So, you know, we each get what we want, but at the end of the day, the patients also get what they need.
Pragmatism, I like that. You again?
Basically, I think inclusivity is the most important, and we need to get more clinicians on board on these decisions. We have technicians, we have engineering, we have advocates, we have everything. But believe me, when having a clinician on board, he can see a different aspect, you know, of the scenario, and the true picture can really lies within.
Thank you. Yes, bring in all the stakeholders, especially clinicians, inclusivity. John, over to you. Last word.
Make it easier for people to take care of their loved ones at home is so important. In America, we tend to shuttle people to nursing homes. It's a generalization, but in like nations like Japan and Europe, there's such a long familial connection, and you want to be able to take care of those you love in their last years and show them the love they showed you when you were a little kid. And I think the tools to do that and stay connected with the doctor at the hospital while you're at home is the future of aging technology.
Great. So don't forget the personal side of things as well. Okay. So I hope you all got something to take back. And going forward, I wish all the good collaboration and that we'll be discussing more implementable and adoptable things in the future. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.